Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Super Deluxe Gamescast. It is Thursday, May the 2nd. Now, this is going to be a much different podcast than we normally do. Normally, we're here talking about, fun gaming news and, weird foods and,
Bitching
Final
about
Fantasy
labor
6
in
and,
the industry and
yeah,
little commie shit like that.
It's supposed to be fun. But tonight we're going to do things a little differently. So, there's been some real bullshit going on.
We've mentioned the harassment campaigns a couple times before. We've said our piece.
Right.
We've done the thing we usually do, right? Which is where
but-
we mention some shit that's going on and we, remind people like who we support and we just assume that our audience obviously is not the kind of people who are ever going to give headway to this stupid bullshit. But yeah, I think it's time for a particularly rare moment for us to just dive headfirst into this stupid culture war bullshit, because it's gone well beyond just culture war bullshit.
Yeah.
We know too many people who have been, whether we're close to them or not, who have dealt with horrendous waves of harassment, people who've been chased out of their homes over this shit. So strap the fuck in.
Well, and we also, it's important that we get this out of the way now. We are going to delve into topics of self-harm, sexual assault, threats that people have received. So if you need to dip out, I don't blame you. First and foremost, more than anything else, I want you to take care of yourself. And we'll, if you just can't be here because of that, we will be here next week with a lighter topic. But tonight we're going to go in on something harder than we've normally gone in on things before. And that would be the harassment campaign targeting our friend Alyssa here, from Mark Curtin and his weird little army of fucking.
I think we'll start with like a timeline, right? Because I think the fact
well, let's introduce Alyssa first.
Like, that makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, let's get Alyssa in here. Alyssa Mercante, a recent acquaintance of mine, but somebody whose work I have followed for quite some time. And as I've gotten to know you over the past few weeks, Alyssa, I gotta say you're fucking cool as shit.
Thank you. Sorry I'm on an iPhone like someone's grandma when you FaceTime her on vacation, but apparently my new laptop doesn't want to do any of this. So thanks, guys. But yeah, I mean, I love you guys, so I'm just happy to be here. It's not the best situation to be talking about, but also, I'm going to try and keep it as light as possible amongst all of this as well. So
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean that's all we can do.
that's like the best defense, right? Is like you can't help but joke about it,
Yeah,
So, like,
I mean, it is funny in a lot of ways.
Objectively, a little bit.
It's funny. I think it depends on how you look at it, right? Like, you obviously are, taking things in stride, and I hats off to you for that. I know that, and unfortunately, by the way, Ash was not able to make it tonight. But there are other victims out there. There are other people, mostly women and community managers across the industry, who are having to deal with this stuff. And we're gonna go in harder.
Weird how
on
it's all women and queer folks and people of color, and especially where those things intersect, right? Like weird.
So let's establish a timeline here, and we're gonna take this all the way up to the present day. We're gonna talk about some of the things that have happened over the past few weeks. We're gonna talk about the people driving this thing, and we're gonna talk about what it's resulted in, which are just some absolutely just fucking horrific and disgusting threats that have been thrown your way and have been thrown towards other people. Hell, even me, somebody in chat last week said I was going to eat a bullet, and I was like, I mean, no.
Well, I blew up for a little bit there. I mean, it goes around. It goes around.
Yeah. It really is just whoever they have their sights on for that brief moment before they move on to something else. So I just can't. They can't get rid of me. That's why they keep coming back to me.
Exactly. Alyssa, all right, let's start. Where did all this start? What's the fucking, what is the Big Bang moment here? Like, what's the fucking singularity here?
I mean, this version of it, if we're not going back 10 years, or we're not going back 50 years or 100 years or centuries to when men were already told that they were the center of everything, and God forbid they weren't. It was, I started hearing and seeing whispers in early March of this conspiracy theory that was circling that there was this company that was getting hired by big studios to inject them with wokeness or something like that. And it was kind of all over everywhere. It was like on it was on 8chan or something, like one of those really like deep internet places. And then I started seeing
that's the Nazi pedophile website.
Yeah, that's
right?
the Nazi pedophile website. Yeah, good stuff. Really high quality stuff going on there.
Great
really,
people to have in your corner.
Yeah, very much so.
Shout out to Mark,
Yeah, and then I had seen, I don't even know if I was following this person who worked at Sweet Baby. I think we were. Yeah, I think we'd spoken once or twice before. We talked about fashion before. And I had seen them sharing this page on Steam that was called like Sweet Baby Ink Detected, saying like, they're not saying the loud part loud, but it's like very obvious that this is, a group that's been made to like ostensibly like keep people away from playing these specific games because they have like woke things in them, and like this is breaking like the TOS, like you should report this and you should report the guy who made it because he's so fucking proud of it or whatever. And then that's when I reached out to Sweet Baby, and then I also joined the Discord of the Sweet Baby Ink Detected Steam group that was, like at that point like 2,000 people strong in the Discord or something like that. And then spent like a day or two like between the interviews with Sweet Baby, and I had 2 separate ones, one with 3 people who worked there, one with 1 person, and then was in the Discord until they kicked me. And then I just wrote the story, published it, and it just kind of went. Once I started getting like the responses that I got, where it was just like conspiracy doubling down and like, well, this person wanted to cancel a Brazilian man and get him banned, and I was just like, we're not even talking about the same shit, are we? Like, you guys are in a different. This is another planet for you. And then I immediately got spicy because I don't know how to not be spicy, and that pissed them off.
How dare a woman speak back? Like,
it's because I said you can't be racist against white people, which is still like,
That's true. That's simply true. You
such a crazy concept.
Yeah. There is not a way to take part in systemic prejudice against fucking people of European descent.
I don't really know how. I mean, it's hard to have that conversation at this point because it seems like so far beyond like my realm of being like, what do you mean you can't wrap your head around this? But like, just because like somebody who maybe was a person of color was mean to you once does not mean you experience racism. And I don't know how else to explain that to you. But yeah, it just kind of went exactly how you would expect. It started getting picked up from every bad actor under the sun. And I started getting a lot of weird emails and had to shut down my Instagram so that they would stop finding me on there. And then my Twitter got really bad for a little bit. I had to lock it because they were reporting tweets from like 10 years ago, because I've had Twitter since like it started. And then it's just kind of been low hum of that for almost 2 months now, guys.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Twitter's current moderation is just basically completely backwards.
Everything targeting Alyssa and Ash and others that I've reported, it has all been like, nope, there's no.
Yeah.
Like
it's like here's 8 or 9 different anti-Semitic like comments that are being like directly pointed at me, even though I'm not Jewish. And they were like, no, this is good. We checked this and this is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he replaced the I in a slur with an exclamation mark. It's a different thing.
It's the same with me lately reporting fake accounts of me. They're like, can you upload your ID? They're not faking you. I'm like, that's literally everything that's on my account, from like the info to my header to my picture. And they changed the L in my name to an I. And you're like, no, they're not impersonating you.
Alyssa, that's the fucking stupid thing, is that like everybody's like, oh, look at this Jewess. And it's like, I'm sure you're not Jewish. Like,
but that's the thing, is nothing is sticking, and that's how these people are. And it seems so crazy that I've been talking about this for 2 months, but this is what was happening in the beginning. The beginning was that I was like, I changed my name to sound Latina, or I am Latina and I hate white people. Neither one of those things are true. Or I'm Jewish, or I'm anti-Semitic, or I'm a trans woman, or I want to be a man, but I was born a woman. It's just like a million different things that could be considered disparaging in their minds that they're just throwing out and being like, she's a prostitute and that's how she got her job. And it's like, I mean, none of them stick. You just keep throwing shit at the wall. Yeah. So, and it's still happening. Like, I mean, the fake Spanish stuff stopped a little while ago, but it was like, what?
It doesn't matter how absurd the made up bullshit is, or how contradictory often it can be, right? That they can say you are Jewish, which is not, like in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with being Jewish. It's just that like every conspiracy goes back to anti-Semitism in the end. But, or that you are anti-Semitic. Like it's like, okay, well, which of these is true? And again, not to get complicated, you could be, but like whatever, like it doesn't matter. They're just throwing shit at the wall, like you said, to see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean that's just I don't know. It's like the article is meant to be what the article is, right? Like I can be a certain amount of spicy on Twitter because that's not my website and my like work, And I'll share my work, but also Twitter is like social media. It's me acting like who I would act, without technically fully representing Geo or whatever, which is why I can say, fuck ugly smelly men. But so I wouldn't write that in an article. But yeah, I think the article is meant to be like, this is what I did. This is the research that I did. Just because you think you're being clever because you're not outright saying we don't like Black people in games, or we don't like women in games, or we don't like women of color in games, like doesn't mean that like it's not very clear and obvious what you're doing, And I think that was like the point. The point was like, I mean, girl, who are you kidding? And like, again, you think you're being so clever. Like you're like every single one of these guys thinks they're like fucking a mastermind evil villain from like a Bond movie, and it's like.
That's why they all talk like fucking Sephiroth.
Literally,
so fucking funny.
It's just
who first coined that phrase, because it is the most accurate shit.
I don't know, because they're so right. Hold on, my phone. I'm so set up like a grandma.
You're okay. This is a lo-fi podcast, so we're not.
Well, I'm bringing the low.
We're not too worried about it. Here's my thing. Like 90 and like a lot of people say oh well, nobody's gonna do anything about it, and for 99.9% of people, yes, that's correct. Most people are not gonna act on this shit, especially the ones who just say this shit openly, right? Like nobody like for example, if somebody and this is good advice for anyone listening, like if somebody sends you a threat and they're like, I'm gonna fucking come for you, I'm gonna gun you down, you're not gonna see shit coming. They're not going to do it because they have no intention to do it, because if something were to happen to you, they've just fucking put the spotlight on themselves. Like anybody who actually makes that kind of threat has no intent to carry that threat out. It's that 0.01% that won't say anything. That'll just do it. That's what you have to worry about. And so for anybody who wants to say, oh, Alyssa or Ash or, our friend, Jessica Cogswell, like, oh, it's all talk. It's all talk. Yeah, most of it is until it isn't. So there's a real fucking threat.
But also, I like that's true, and it's good to. I think it's always helpful to remind people that the threats are empty, and it 99.9% of it can safely be ignored. But most people are not used to having that kind of magnifying glass put on them, right? And dealing with that deluge of notifications, and unless you've been through that a lot, and frankly, I know plenty of people who have been through it a lot and still don't have defenses built up, right? Like the problem is that like it is ultimately entirely on the people who are making the threats, because what they're hoping to do is overwhelm people.
I think it's mostly just it's a harassment campaign. Like it's a bullying.
That's absolutely what it is.
It's what happened last time 10 years ago. This happens across multiple mediums and multiple cultures. There's equality. It's happening more. You're not guaranteed XYZ just because you're white and your daddy was white and you have, I don't know, whatever, a lineage or something that you can be fucking quote unquote proud of. Equality is happening as it should to try and erase years and years of inequality that was put in place by the government and by the people who, benefited from that. And you don't like it, and you want those people who are around you now who are telling you, hey, by the way, that off-color joke that you were able to make in 2002 when you worked at, I don't know, Blizzard is maybe like not cool anymore because there's women here and there's Black people here and there's queer people here, and no one wants to hear you talk about that or talk like that. So I think they don't want that. They don't want to be, in their words, policed. They don't want to be told you can't keep saying this shit, you can't keep acting like this, you can't keep making women uncomfortable at cons or following people around at professional events, and they're pissed. So they're like, what do? Well, let's scare them. Let's make them feel like they're not welcome here.
Yeah.
You know,
And it
I've been
works because
thinking
how
about-
can it not? Because like it
When
doesn't
it's that
matter.
intense, if you don't have thick skin and you don't have a good support system, of course you would want to get out of this immediately. And and no one would judge you for that. It's a fucking video game. Like nobody should be sitting here worried about themselves and whether or not they're going to get hurt or they're going to get harassed or they're going to get called something terrible or their family's social media accounts are going to get attacked because they said something about a fucking video game. Like, let's have a little bit of perspective. Like, there's people that are dying, Kim. Like, it's that.
Yeah.
Also, like I've been thinking about the parallels between, I guess essentially Gamergate 2, for lack of a better term.
If I can make a tiny aside, right?
Okay.
Just because this is something a friend brought up, right? But it's also interesting. Like, I'm not sure where I land on what I want to call this. Obviously, Gamergate 2 is kind of the phrase that has gained popularity, but like I have a friend who was a major, like, not one of the central people, but like a major person who got a lot of backlash that really, really affected their personal life. Virender Jabal, famously photoshopped into, having like a suicide vest and a Quran, despite being Sikh. It's not even the same, but it doesn't matter because racists don't know the difference. And he made the point of like, it's really weird to hear the phrase Gamergate 2 for him, as somebody who was kind of in the middle of that, because it's both different in terms of how it's playing out, and in terms of kind of like, for him, it's a little bit the PTSD of like what that phrase means to him. So that's not meant as like a don't call it Gamergate 2. I think for me, it's like hearing that perspective has made me think of like, I don't have a good thing to call this.
Well, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I was thinking about the parallels between this and what happened 10 years ago, right? And I consider this to be inherently more dangerous because of the fucking national atmosphere right now.
Yeah.
People are, in 2024, people are far more ready to commit acts of violence than they were in 2014. I mean, let's face it, like, the atmosphere across the country is hot right now.
Yeah.
And people more and more as they get the sense, and like there is definitely this sense of, fucking apocalypse hanging over the country for a lot of people right now, and when people start assuming that apocalyptic mindset, they start with, think, well, hey, fuck it, I might as well find this person in the street, fuck it, like it's all falling apart anyway. Does that mean that somebody is going to go on the hunt for someone tomorrow? No. But what it does mean is that, look at it this way. 10 years ago, you were rolling, when you were rolling the dice on threats, you were rolling with 2 die. Now you're rolling with 4.
Yeah.
And that's the best metaphor I can come up with, because I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and like, no, that's a good one. But I think like the fact that it came back should tell you that, clearly these people were not made to feel bad about how they're behaving, or they weren't shunned or ostracized enough in a manner that would tell them, don't do this, as if you were a kid, go to fucking timeout. They weren't put in timeout effectively because some of the loudest people are the same people who were like this 10 years ago. And it's like, you shouldn't want to even show your fucking face in these places. You should be ashamed of the way that you behaved and the way that you acted. But instead, it's like they're actually just picking up the sentence where it left off 10 years ago, to the point where they're putting me in the same sentence as Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian, as if like we ever even crossed paths, our work ever even, like, I respect those people. I have never spoken to them in my fucking life. Like, so I think the fact that it's the same kinds of echoes and the same kinds of behavior, and that also that kind of behavior and those echoes was exactly what Steve Bannon used in the Trump White House because he saw how effective it was. It's been codified into the way that people behave now in this country and beyond. And that's the fucking internet. But yeah, like it is clearly they weren't freaked out enough or worried enough or embarrassed enough by how they behaved 10 years ago, because they're doing it again. And they're teaching a bunch of more young, naive, malleable young men to do the same thing. So yeah, it is a little bit like I mean, if you didn't really have any consequences from the first time around, why wouldn't you fucking do it again? Like,
and like, you know, like I want to stress, you know, like it's like I get that it's easy for someone like me to sit here and say, you know, don't worry too much about some of these threats, right? Like I'm a big burly white guy who's heavily armed, right? Like nobody's gonna nobody's gonna come and try to make beef with me. They've threatened to do it for years, as Derek will attest, and nothing's ever happened. But you know, the situation is different if, you know, you're a person of color, or, you know, or you know, if you're, you know, if you're a woman, or, you know, or, you know, something like that. But, you know, but still understand that, you know, most of these threats are empty. That's not to say that you shouldn't keep your head on the swivel. And that's not to say that you shouldn't stay alert, but.
And there's stuff you can do, you know, like, the one good thing that my company does is offer delete me subscriptions to everyone who works for their websites, which means, and it's something I should have done earlier on. I just thought it was stupid and didn't bother because I'm lazy, but it is something that removes my, you know, personal information from like yellow page websites and stuff like that, which is like also kind of, I don't know. We're young, right? Like I'm young. Like I don't own property. I don't have enough money to own property. I moved apartments. Like, you know, I've moved and lived in a lot of different spaces in the last 10 years. And so I, you know, even their understanding of what they believe to be my address may or may not be even close to correct, but it's still, there's stuff you can do in that case that like, you can at least make sure that these things are taken offline. And more so than something like Twitter or something like Facebook, those requests for those websites have to be honored. So you can at least like go through that process and make sure that none of that stuff is there. And it is also like, yeah, if you feel unsafe, lock down your account for a little bit, talk to some people and make sure you have stuff in order. Like, yeah, there's stuff you can do that doesn't mean like you have to like never leave your house or you have to be like really careful when you go places. There's just a couple of extra steps that the unfortunate reality of living as like, you know, a woman in the internet age is like something you can do just to be extra safe, you know. But yeah, like, no, I'm not sitting here like on the subway going, is this guy gonna get me? Like, it's like, no.
But like, I also have
No.
all of the sympathy in the world for people who do feel like that, because
absolutely,
like,
and you have every right to if you like, you know what I mean? Like, no one would second guess you if you felt that way.
It's not
some of
your
us,
fault.
like myself
You're
and
not
John,
wrong for being worried.
No, I'm a hornet's nest kicker. This is how I have always been. And my father, for lack of a better term, didn't raise no bitch. And so he raised two aggressive, loudmouth, intense daughters. And you know, if I have to get involved in something verbally or physically to protect myself or someone, I will. So for me, yeah, no, I'm not worried. But no one would tell you shouldn't be if you are.
We're all different. We've all got different life experiences. We're all going to react to this stuff different. Like,
exactly.
My frame of reference is like, I'm queer and non-binary, and I live in the South and have my whole life, right? And those are two things that are not always very well received. But I also recognize I come across pretty safe, right? I have a masculine appearance. I'm fine and comfortable with that. I code relatively masculine, so I blend well. Compare that to my sister. My sister is trans and has a much harder time with, despite being in a very similar boat on paper, is a much more unsafe person in general. In regards to the way the political climate treats people like us. So she, by her nature, has to be so much more cautious about this kind of stuff than I do. Like, you know, and all I can do is understand that and try to support her when she's scared.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like I'm a middle class, I was raised in middle class, white, you know, despite what people might say, conventionally attractive, like, you know, straight presenting woman. So like, yeah, no, I'm not the most like in danger person by any fucking means whatsoever. So yeah, it's also part of the reason why I keep doubling down. Like, I'm like, you know, it's not anyone else's job who's already in a intense position in the world or feels like they have even more of a spotlight on them in a social media setting or in any setting. It's not their job to feel like they need to pick up this fucking flag and run it into the, you know, into battle. And I think too often we expect, or we try and use the marginalized people to be like, well, you guys like say something if you feel this way, if you feel, you know, and maybe they don't want to, maybe they don't want to put themselves out there anymore because their existence is already out there enough for them.
Thank you.
And
you know,
so I'll fucking take, like, I don't give a shit. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I'm happy to say things. At the end of the day.
But Alyssa, speaking of people who think they're running into battle, Where is all this coming from? Where is all this coming from? Who is responsible for this? Who's doing this?
Let's rephrase it. Rather than saying who's responsible for all of this, let's maybe phrase it as who put both hands on the steering wheel partway through the trip and kind of took over the car.
It's listen. Every every group has to have their leader, and I found just in my, even before this popped off, you know, I've been writing articles about, my focus is on the culture surrounding video games, right? This is what all of my pieces have been, my larger pieces at both Games Radar and at Kotaku, and it's even what my master's dissertation was on, if anybody wants to fucking go read that one day. But like, the thing with the internet is there's a lot of people who can be comfortably anonymous on there, and the few people that are comfortable with putting their faces or fucking little cartoon avatars about them and their real names, they end up becoming their de facto leaders, right? Because like in some cases you're only going to rally so far behind, you know, I don't know, fucking
turn.
like like strongest man 24/7 with like a fucking like Roman statue as his Twitter handle. Like
some fucking Greco-Roman statue bullshit.
Yeah, of course, because that's when they thought the world was at the best point. Meanwhile, men fucked each other all the time back then. So really fucking hello.
Maybe we could bring that part back. I don't know.
But I mean, it's a perfect storm in this situation, right? So like whoever the leaders of Gamergate 1 are, I was not in the industry yet. I was writing about the industry, like blogging casually for myself. And I was obviously hyper aware of it, and it ended up being in my dissertation. But this wasn't something where I was dealing with these people on a daily basis. So I think right now it's obviously like their de facto leader is Mark Kern. And it's because
that fucking guy.
It's because he shows his face or his avatar, and because he has a modicum of clout in this industry because 10, 15 years ago, he was working at Blizzard and then had his own studio and whatever. So to them,
6-year-old man who uses a avatar to
I have said this before, he literally could be my father. Like he could have had me in his early 20s and I would be his kid.
Fuck up, dude. Come on,
like,
man.
But this is literally what it is. It's the perfect, I mean, of course he's perfect for this, right? Because he's like, well, I was on the inside and I know how games were made back in the day, and I know what's good for games, and I know what's bad for games, and I've had CEO meetings, and I've been in board meetings, and I know how to raise money, and I know how to do everything from top to the bottom in the industry, and I can tell you right now that all of this is bad for it. It's like, and so they're like, oh, wow. And also I can look at this man, his Wikipedia page that he definitely did not write himself, and look and say, oh, wow, look, he did this, that, and the other
thing. Look at all these old games I like that are linked in his profile. Never, it's not even don't like, ask what he did.
No, and his lore, that's what I mean. The lore has become already so established in their mind that he's like the reason why WoW exists.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm like, I don't really think that's what you did.
He had, like, I thought it was a little weird when I went to his Wikipedia and it said his dick was 8 feet long and tastes like strawberry. I thought that was very, very strange. But
guess I'll find out on our wedding night.
But, oh my God!
So, what a sad man.
So let's talk about Mark Kern. I want to talk about Mark Kern. Mark Kern is responsible for things like the first iteration of World of Warcraft and Diablo 2.
By responsible for, let's be clear, he was like an office middle manager, right?
This is what I mean.
He was like a team leader.
Yeah. And team lead, if you've never worked on a game, if you've never, like, that sounds really impressive. But like when you've been involved in development on big games at big studios, or if you're just at all familiar, there's so many team leads. There's so many team leads on every project, and most of them are not. I mean, first off, it's not helpful to ascribe the creative process behind a game to any single person anyway. Shout out to Warren Spector. But like, it's also just like ridiculously untrue to say one of a dozen middle managers with the exact same job title is somehow like meaningfully responsible for this game that you associate positive feelings with.
Yeah. But that's the reason why we're supposed to listen to him about everything, because he was a team lead on World of Warcraft.
He was a team lead on World of Warcraft, and he was
when I was still in high school.
He apparently, that's the thing, right? Like, dude, I'm sorry, you're 56
Yeah,
years
his
old.
most relevant thing in his profile is like, if he gets to claim World of Warcraft in his profile, I get to say high school sophomore in mine, because it's as accurate.
Captain of the soccer team, baby. Watch out. School record in the 100-meter dash.
I was competing in Kissel, fucking debate nerd.
People claim that this man is married. I don't buy it, because I simply refuse to believe that somebody whose dick is drier than the Sahara Desert could possibly be fucking married. But
I just, even if you are, and I was your wife, and I saw how you were behaving online, I would be like, your internet privileges are revoked.
We're divorcing.
Imagine sitting down
here's the
for dinner. It's you, it's your wife, it's the kids, right? It's the family. And he's like, man, they took a little bit of cloth. They added a bit of cloth on the costume, and I can't see as much animate titty now. So I'm gonna I'm gonna harass a bunch of women now.
Like,
Daddy, I'm hungry.
That motherfucker's at the dinner table with his family, like into his phone, and his wife's like, honey, your meatloaf's getting cold. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to free Stellar Blade.
You don't understand how important soul is. Plus, I'm like, oh, so let's roll this back like even fucking further, right? Like, the failures of what he has done as a person are obvious. And I think what's so funny is it's like the king of the losers is telling you this is like everything that you should look at what he's done, follow the paper trail, and then also follow the interviews with people who were saying that he was a fucking nightmare to work with because of the way that he behaved.
When he showed up.
When he finally showed up to work, he was allegedly a nightmare to work with, and allegedly just wanted to talk about whatever book he was reading. I mean, look at this. The patterns are there. Who does he remind you of? Every other high-level tech dude that people are treating like Jesus, that behave like adult babies, that believe that everything they say should be taken as gospel, that don't want any questions from anybody, and will push anybody out that asks them anything that's actually like pointed and tough for them to answer. Like, it's giving Elon Musk, but way less rich and technically less successful. Like, it's just the same behavior. And there's this pseudo intellectualism that's like, well, because you can string a sentence together better than most of the people who are typing slurs in my DMs, they think this is it. This is our leader. This is our leader, right? No, he's an antisocial dickhead, like, who attacks people and then like rings the dinner bell and tells you to come get your slop. Like, this guy shouldn't be leading anyone, let alone an army of fucking dickheads.
It would be depressing enough in its own right? For a 50-something-year-old man who purports himself as such a great professional in the industry, to spend so much of his energy and attention, seemingly all of his energy and attention, on being upset that he has a slightly harder time jerking off to video game characters than he feels he should.
And that was just this last week, because before that it was something else, and before that it was something else, and before that it was something else, because all these people have to do is keep hopping you from different things to get mad about, to keep you riled up, without actually having any conclusion, any plan for anything, as long as you stay pissed off.
That's the plan. Like, but that would be depressing enough if that was the case, right? Because with all of the horrible shit going on in the world, right? I mean, I'm looking here right now, like, for all we're talking about this, like, the thing weighing heaviest on my heart and mind is the shit going on in Palestine, right? And there's a billion other things in the world to be frustrated and upset about, and like, you're mad about video game titties being slightly more covered up, maybe. Like, that would be depressing enough. But of course, he's also weaponized the attention he's gotten and the fan base he's gotten to send death threats and horrible shit to innocent people.
There's something else there's another factor to this, Derek, and this is the really, I think, this is where we cross over into, okay, we've passed trolling, and we're now in true danger territory when you start saying shit like they want you dead.
Yeah.
When you start saying shit like they want you dead. So, because what that is, what he's doing is he's saying it's drilling the mentality of who's it going to be, you or them.
Yeah. I want, and I'll be curious about Alyssa's opinion on this, actually, because this is a conversation, John, me and you've had privately multiple times. Early on in this, I was telling John, I think I see Mark Kern beginning to kind of take the spotlight back before it was fully just the Mark Kern show. You know, there's a brief moment where like Matt Walsh and Shia Reichik and all them were getting in on it.
Yeah. Elon weighed in at one point. I was getting
Right.
tattooed and I saw that he was like, sweet baby ink should not be involved. I'm literally like
That was
getting a
scary.
needle
That
jammed
was
into my
super
shin and was like,
fucking
not Elon.
Yeah, that was super fucking worrying. But I was seeing Mark Kern really pull most of the attention. I was telling John, I think this is becoming the Mark Kern show. And in some ways that's better, and in some ways that's worse. It's kind of better in that somebody like Mark Kern simply cannot get the mainstream attention and respectability that somebody like, I mean, sadly, Reichik or like Elon Musk has in terms of more mainstream extreme right. That's a weird phrase to say. But like Mark Kern looks like a fucking dweeb from the outside, unless you are a very specific kind of loser, the kind we saw many videos of recently. But the flip side of that is it makes it worse because the kinds of people that stick around and stay invested in this, despite Mark Kern being the figurehead and the kinds of ridiculous, they want you dead kind of rhetoric, is that the people who stay invested are the people who are going to believe that gaming community managers want you genocided, therefore. And those are the people you genuinely have to be very scared of. So.
Yeah, I think it's, John, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I can wait.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think, it's the same thing that was happening when the Sweet Baby thing first. Yeah, you chug that.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
There's a couple drips left.
They were so adamant that like they hadn't said anything, that was inappropriate, and everything they were doing was above board, and there was no way that you can complain about this. And I think, Mark tries to say, don't harass anyone. Every once in a while, he makes it really clear, don't harass them. But that's in between message after message after message of they tried to kill me to stop this petition, and they want you dead.
Yeah.
And here's a Twitch streamer saying, $30,000 if you get rid of this guy, and if you make Eve from Stellar Blade's tits bigger. Only if you do both. And he's like, look at this. This is a death threat. This is a warrant. This is a bounty on my head. Can't you see how dangerous they are? How much they'll stoop to this, that, and the other thing? Meanwhile, 6 weeks ago, I was posting the litany of shit I was getting, and they were like, you faked it. You made it up. I think like you could sit here and say don't harass them all you want, but if you're turning around and acting like people on the other side are the people who are going to be actually dangerous, you are going to whip people up into a frenzy, and whatever consequences come from that, like that's on you.
I think a lot of people on the right love to say don't harass people, but say it like once in a blue moon and think that that's the magic spell that gives them protection.
And if you're sending people after them over and over and over again, do you know what I mean? Like if every once in a while your aside is, but be nice, but you're like, look at these wokey fucking woke this, that, forcing this, that, trans panic, blah, 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 other thing. Come on, like the rhetoric is the rhetoric.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this for a minute. So I have a gathering of threats sent to Alyssa that she sent to me, and
holy
with her,
fuck, do I want to remind people, especially listeners, of content warning?
I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
So with Alyssa's permission, I'm going to share some of these with the audience because they're all fake, right? Like none of this shit is real. It's all bullshit. So I want to throw a content warning out to the audience right now that there's some pretty horrific shit in here regarding sexual assault and various racial and ethnic slurs, which obviously I will be sanitizing some of that. But I want people to understand just how bad some of this shit is. And I know that there are people, I know right now that there are Mark Kern fans in chat right now. We've been banning them all night.
We keep getting them like fucking, like they say, quick draw tonight, man.
This is for you guys too. And if this is something that you feel like you can support, then I can't.
By all means.
Yeah.
But here we go. So these are a collection of threats that have been sent to Alyssa over video games. Bear in mind.
Oh God, I knocked my phone over. It's so fucking ridiculous.
Over video games. All right. Again, strong content warning. Ugly Jew begging for free shit. What a surprise. You've gained so much weight since Gamergate started. You really needed to get on Ozempic.
They love the fat shit too.
Oh no, Derek, So Derek, that's the light stuff.
I know.
Alyssa Mercante is next. Dumb bitch, you're messing with the wrong people. Let's see what else we got here.
I don't even think I sent you the one that was just a picture of a bullet on a table. That was from the same guy. That was like, you're next.
Yeah, no, I saw that one too. I saw that one too. There's actually some more here. Let me. Okay. Oh god, some of these are really bad.
And some of these you can't say.
Yeah, some of these you can't even censor your way around.
Some of these we can't even say.
Yeah.
Ian Miles Chong just DM'd me your address. I'm not gonna say that one. I'm not gonna say that one.
Is it the John Mulaney joke? That's like if you're arguing over which word is worse.
Here's a bad one. After looking at your Twitter, I found out you are the most disgusting, ugliest piece of shit I've seen in a while, and I endorse suicide for worthless, dumb, and ugly people like you. You bring no value to the world, and suicide would be beneficial to humanity in your case. I also endorse going to a hood in your neighborhood, and the mob will do the same. Let's see if black gangsters are so inclusive of pansies like you. Absolutely despicable human being. Either kill yourself or get killed. Video games!
Over video games.
We're talking about fucking video games, dude.
We're talking about video games.
Like, what the like? Am I fucking? Like? I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my fucking mind, dude. Like,
what's so funny is that like we say we're saying this about video games, right? And like on the one hand, like I would make arguments for video games being very important in terms of it being the arts, right? Even if it's a very consumer, focused art, like it's the arts and that shit is deeply important. But also that's not the way that these people view video games. They're not thinking about things as art and art. They're thinking of it in terms of content slop that they can shovel down to not think about their own sad lives.
Look at this. You are a participant in degenerate culture and a staple point of it.
I love degenerate culture. Talk dirty to me.
Don't go planning that 40th birthday. You won't make it to that point.
Oh, I heard a lot of that. God, remember all the people telling me I was going to die of AIDS, John?
I got a couple of those too.
So much of that, of course.
John, these are only
I'm like, bitch, PrEP exists. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, hello? That's the thing too. And that's what I was going to say. Like, John, these are like from the immediate aftermath of the Sweet Baby story, because the ADL reached out to me, the Anti-Defamation League, and they were like, we are working with other people who are facing this to try and see if we can get some stuff taken down. Can you please send us like everything that's happened in the last few days? So this was like early mid-March that these are from. Like at a certain point, because I had so many block bots in place and like muted so many conversations, it obviously like the deluge isn't as much, but like I am still getting like, I mean, there's a guy on YouTube who talks about me like every other week saying that, and at this point, yes, it's obviously not threats, it's harassment, because it's like, look at this herpes infested whore who has to suck dick to be in this industry. And it's like, I don't think you realize that you can't just get on the internet and say that about someone, especially when you're.
Dude, maybe get better at sucking dick if you want the job so bad. I don't know what to tell you.
Like,
it's an open field. They're basing the herpes thing off of one picture of like me having turf burn on my ass from playing soccer, and it's like ripped. My butt cheek is ripped open, and it's like. Do y'all think that that's, first of all, where herpes is on my butt?
They've never seen, they don't know. And they've never done physical activity either, It's
just so weird. They keep sharing that. They keep sharing this old nude of me as if like it's still not on my Twitter. And it's like, I think that I break their brains in a specific manner because I am so unabashedly who I am, and I also am a former sex worker, that like you are not going to slut shame me, and you're not going to find old images of me and drub them up and have me be like, oh god, no, my nudes are leaking. Hooker, everybody's seen my nudes. Everybody's seen my nudes. So like, share them some more. Like
reading about this shit, like fucking. There are like, and we sit here and, we're making fun of Mark Kern for it, but there are people out there, friends of mine right now, who have had to leave their fucking homes. I know one of them who is watching the podcast right now. And Derek, you know exactly who I'm talking about. She has had to flee her fucking home.
I have a lot of friends,
She's had to
especially a
flee
lot
her
of
fucking home.
community managers who've been through.
She's had to reach out to fucking law enforcement for protection because of this motherfucker and the people who follow him. And I swear to fucking God, dude, I swear to fucking God, if I ever meet any one of you motherfuckers in public,
Say it, big man. Say it, big man.
You're getting fucking curb stomped.
Oh.
I'll put you through a fucking table. Like, this is fucking garbage, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck
It's
is
all
wrong
over
with you?
video games. It's over video games.
She's a woman with a fucking family. And
Yeah.
you're fucking blowing this shit. She's had to leave her fucking home. People are threatening her fucking kids. People are threatening her fucking kids over video games. The fuck is wrong with you?
It's just so
Fucking
fucking
bullshit.
twisted, man.
Yeah.
It's twisted. And what's fucked is like, if you're not in this is so foreign and fucking, for lack of a better term, insane. You know, like my friends who are not plugged into the internet, that are my friends in real life, they're like, hey, how are you? What do you want to go get a drink? You want to go do this? You want to go do that? And first of all, like, I'm already overworked because of the bullshit that's set up at my current situation at my job. So I'm like working all day. I'm fielding all of this shit all day. I'm one of only 2 people running one of what was once the most important fucking sites in gaming. And it's like, and then I have to like end my day and like mute a bunch of fucking things because I've got X, Y, and Z said to me. And my friends are like, I don't understand. What do you mean? I've never heard of any of this, because it's so terminally online and so terminally up its own fucking ass that any human being that isn't forced into this because of our jobs and what we do every day doesn't even have a fucking understanding of what this is, because it's so out of touch. It's so not even real. But when you start to threaten people, you force a reality into something that you should just be doing in your dark little fucking corners. And that's what makes it really, really frustrating. Because don't ever fucking bring your fucking pissed off fucking can't wank fucking shit into somebody's life in that manner.
Yeah.
Like, that's so out of fucking pocket, dude.
There's an organization at PAX East that was getting threats because of this stuff, and I had to liaise with them for security stuff, and they were looking to me. I shouldn't have to fucking do that for a gaming convention.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to fucking do that. I shouldn't have to fucking do that for video games. My friend shouldn't have to fucking deal with people telling her that her kids are going to be sexually assaulted over video games. Not just killed, sexually assaulted.
It's
her
hard
fucking kids.
because like we say right now the impact of this is primarily like the harm it poses to individuals and the splash damage it causes to people who identify as being similar to those individuals who are at the center of these harassment campaigns. But the reality is the original run of Gamergate gave us Donald Trump for president, right? Like,
no, it did.
And that's such a
yeah.
it is observable. It is a well-documented thing, but at the same time, I work in traditional news, and if I try to explain the concept of Gamergate to like a respected news editor who's been doing news for 30 plus years, they're like, what in the fuck are you talking about? So like right now, this is just the impact it has on individuals and on, subgroups, but like, this does have the ability to be politically radicalizing and reach outside of itself, and nobody will take it seriously until it does, at which case it will be treated as having sprung from the void, rather than being something that was purpose tested.
Yeah, and that's also something that I was saying today, right? Because again, this is what Steve Bannon did. This is what Donald Trump did. I'm being attacked. It's what Kern's doing. What Kern's doing. He's saying, he's saying I'm in danger. Look at this threat. Sends the most fucking mealy mouthed ass. I mean, I don't even know if I'm not a lawyer. Would it hold up in a court of law? I hope no one ever has to find out. But he sends this thing. He says, look at me. I'm being threatened. Look at this threat against me. And I'm sitting here saying to you, who has historically been actually in danger, threatened, and harassed in these places? It's not you. It's never been you. It's never been a white passing, because I know he's not fully white, because if I say that he's fully white, whatever, he's not fully white. It's white passing cis men. They've never gone to a convention and said, I'm uncomfortable. And I wrote about this last year when multiple people were roofied at fucking GDC parties. When I was at a party at PAX in 2020 where somebody was roofied, in PAX the year before that. And guess what? It's women. It's women. It's women, and it's women of color, and it's non-binary folks. Those are the people who are dealing with the ramifications of this in their real lives. And I think it's really irresponsible for somebody who has never had to actually face this in their every fucking day, to turn around and be like, I'm a victim. I'm scared. Like, no, you're not. You're not. There's no way you are, because when have you ever even just left your house and felt that your existence, the way that you look and the way that you are, is going to put you in some sort of fucking danger? Or somebody's going to follow you down the street and go, hey, you look good. Can I get your number? Can I do this? Can I do that? And follow you the fuck around. Because we live in a misogyny-steeped fucking environment. And this is what happens here. So I think it's really irresponsible to turn around and say, like, oh, we better be careful for me. No, the people who you are pointing harassment towards are the people who have been historically harassed in person and online. Yeah. Let's be real.
Which makes it even harder for the like tiny handful of like pick-me's that latch onto this stuff, right? But like, and the reality is, like, we know, right? If you know anything about fascism, if you study fascism, if you understand the way that the hierarchies work, the closer you are to categories at the top of the hierarchy, the more reason you have to latch to those identities rather than the ways you are marginalized. That's also why you see, for example, many Black and Hispanic men are very quick to latch on to, like, you know, white chauvinist movements, because it's easier for those particular individuals to latch onto the man part of their identity, the straight part of their identity, the Christian part of their identity, in order to find safety within the hierarchy, and jettison the part of themselves that is in danger. And they will only temporarily find, that's why a lot of white women, right? Like, that's why so many white gay men, right, will be transphobic on Twitter. And it's because they are trying to find temporary safety within the hierarchy subconsciously. Many of them aren't thinking about this, but they're siding with with fascism, not understanding that eventually the hierarchy will shrink again and again, and then they will be the most other left. So.
Yeah, and that's why, like, that's why, you know, like, I would have loved, and I hope she's good. I know she was like feeling a little under the weather, but like, that's why I would have loved to Ash would have weighed in on this, because like Ash is experiencing this on a level that I can't even come close to experiencing. You know, like, it's not even close for me, because at the end of the day, like, I still have like heaps of privilege that, you know, it's not making this as horrifically intense as it would be if I were in a different marginalized community. So I think, like, it just really makes me fucking really, I mean, it's like, I'm like, John, I'm just really fucking angry, because it's like the balls, the audacity that you have to, like, you know, share people's Twitter handles and their jobs and say they're doing this, that, and the other thing, and they're forcing wokeness into Helldivers or into fucking Warhammer or into fucking whatever game you've picked for the week, and then pointing people in their direction. And 9 times out of 10, they're women or women of color or queer folks, and then sitting back and going, I'm in danger, guys. Like, we're in danger because of how these people feel.
These fucking cowards. These fucking cowards who are coming after, you know, Alyssa and Ash and Jessica and, you know, my friend who I am not going to name here, but fucking, you know, come after me, guys. You know, like, leave them alone. Like, I mean, none of these women have fucking done anything to you. And you know, fucking, like, I don't know how people fucking live with themselves. Like I can't fathom.
It's a fantasy world.
Like, and the thing is Alyssa, I guarantee you, most of these people in private, if they passed you on the street, would smile and wave, because, you know, you're like, we can all fucking put our balls out on the table and act tough as shit online, right? Like, you know, we can all, you know, it's easy to be bigoted online. It's easy to be bigoted online, right? Because you've got so many other bigots online who are going to back you up. But when it's just you on the street, you know, it's a much different picture.
And even like a one-to-one. It's so funny you say that, John, because like literally this just happened today, where I unlocked my Instagram after 2 months or whatever, how long it's been, for a very dumb reason. Mind you, I wanted to tag a goat from a goat farm that I went to in my picture, and I wasn't allowed to tag him because I was private. And I was like, he deserves a tag because he's funny. And so I unlocked my Instagram, and within like a day, I had like 2 comments on my pictures that was just someone who had jumped on and started typing free Stellar Blade on random Instagram pictures of me. So I DM the guy, and I just like screenshot his picture and sent it to him and just wrote LMAO. And he immediately blocked me. And then he messages me later today, unblocks me, messages me, and says like, I didn't think you'd get so mad about a comment. And I was like, well, actually, like, why are you seeking me out on my Instagram that is like, and posting a picture of like me with my sister and being like free Stellar Blade? And he was just like, well, why are you mad about, why are you censoring this? And I was like, you are listening to, and we had a conversation. Like, granted, I was being like very intense. Like, I was like, don't fucking come to my Instagram and start this shit. Don't like expect me to be nice to you. Yeah, like don't expect me to be nice to you. Like, it's not my job to explain shit to you. I'm telling you to go out in public, have a conversation with the person. Don't listen to a 56-year-old man on social media telling you what to be angry about. Make your decisions for yourself. Well, I used to party in my 20s. I don't go out anymore. I'm like, go to a coffee shop. Why am I doing this for you? And by the end of the conversation, he was literally like, you know, they were making you out to be evil. And I could see that you're not. And I'm like, all of it, I'm not going to do this labor with everybody, but literally all it took was 5 back and forth minutes of conversation of me being like, dude, this man is lying to you. Every single time he gets mad about something, he ends the rant with, and subscribe to my Twitter to help fight the woke. What does that do? What are you doing there? How are you helping anybody except him?
We're talking, we were just talking about, people speaking from a place of privilege, right? Like, and how all these people are targeting either, women or persons of color or, folks on the LGBTQ spectrum. And I want to know where the fucking people with privilege are with platforms who should be speaking up about this. Yeah. And I'm gonna call out 2 people right now.
It's been nice. It's been nice having the show. You know what? Let's fucking do it, babes.
I don't expect much.
I know one of them,
Jeff
and I agree. Sadly,
I don't expect much from Jeff Keighley. I don't. But you'd think that fucking Greg Miller, with his 1.2 million followers on Twitter, and having one of the largest gaming platforms in the history of the medium.
Somebody who's genuinely close friends with a lot of marginalized folks who are very, very outspoken and active about these things.
You'd think that Greg would say something about this, but I have looked through his Twitter feed and I have not seen a fucking word. And I don't know why I don't know why I'm one of the only let's face it. I've got privilege, right? I'm a straight white guy with a platform on Twitter. It's only 13,000 people, but it's a platform. Right. So, and by the way, for everyone in chat, I understand that I am speaking from a place of privilege here. And I know I'm an idiot and I'm not always going to get it right, but I do try. Why am I the only one fucking trying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say the only one, but like it's extremely rare. And the thing is, you're not even somebody important. Like, you're a nobody. You're a dude with a fucking small gaming podcast. Like,
and I think it's just, we've had these conversations before, and a friend of mine who I've also became friends with after I interviewed for a piece, Dr. Rachel Cowart, who works for Take This, she shared this, like, right when this was starting to happen, she shared, like a piece from their site that was saying basically like, here's the things that you could do. This is a harassment campaign. And also, by the way, we've mentioned this before, that, if you don't say anything, which is what's happened before, they consider it tacit approval. And so, I can't go too deep into some of this because I had off the record conversations with one person who works at a very, very large company. And they made it clear to me that the big people at the company, the kind of people we would love to say this kind of stuff, they're angry behind closed doors. But, they don't want to poke the bear, and like, what happens if they say something, and like, what happens if it all of a sudden becomes, XYZ company has said be nice to people. And like, I remember Jeff Keighley saying something years ago at one of the Game Awards, like some little like quick speech of being like, we don't take to being like, basically essentially don't harass people on the internet. And I can't remember what year it was, but he did do it once, and I mean, listen, the man didn't say anything about didn't say anything about Palestine when the future class was telling him, signed a letter saying, please say something about this. He didn't talk about the layoffs
Right.
until he like tweeted one recently.
He
and
cares
like
about the layoffs of one man, and that's as far as it
goes. I think it's really easy to continue to be a successful white guy in this industry and not poke the bear too much and not worry that you'll alienate a whole group of people. But have you ever thought for a second, maybe you don't want those kind of people liking you? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't sleep well at night if I thought that like a horde of fucking cunt bags thought I was cool. Like, I would be like, please don't think I'm cool. That. Please don't. Ew, don't think I'm cool. Like, don't. No.
Yeah, like Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say we can say like obviously Jeff Keighley's a good call out. Greg Miller is a good call out, but like you're right. Like the most powerful voice in the industry could simply be like tweets from the fucking comms teams at a couple major publishers.
Yeah.
And like that
guys, an open letter.
Right. I worked at
Sign
Nintendo.
An open letter.
I know what the internal company culture is like at Nintendo, for good and for bad. It's an extremely progressive company internally, all the way to the top. Nintendo could put out a fucking tweet tomorrow that's just like, hey, fucking this harassment shit is bad. There's room for everybody in this industry. And a couple of those would go such a long way to nipping this in the bud. But we don't have that.
Derek, I haven't had
literally.
I haven't had an opportunity to ban anyone yet, but before I do, I scroll back up through chat. I just want to make sure that he sees this. And he told Tanya, if debate cannot be had, it will only devolve into an echo chamber.
We just asked it not to continue.
Oh, no, hold on. That either side can be used as an ammo for, see, my side is right. Well, here's the thing. My side is right, motherfucker. So
that is how you cut that Gordian knot. It's like one side is right in this.
Juggle my fucking balls in your mouth. You're banned.
Yeah. Like, it's, this is the other thing. Like,
it ain't a debate.
It's just, we're so, it's not a debate. Like, you're on the right side of history here, and if you are and you aren't. It's what's frustrating is having to justify yourself all the time, or having like moments where I think, am I going to get some sort of repercussion back from my, capitalism leaning fucking bigwigs that they're pissed off that I'm saying this, that, and the other thing.
Like, capital will always side with not rocking the boat. Like,
of course. But like, like literally an open letter from, Girly, it don't even need to be signed, Phil Spencer, Sam. It doesn't need to be signed anybody. It just needs to be like Xbox, PlayStation, fucking Remedy, Take-Two.
It's your community managers that are on the fucking front lines receiving this shit. Like, and you're not going to fucking speak up for them? Like what the fuck is that supposed to make them think about how they are viewed and valued?
The people whose entire job is to be embedded in those communities.
Yeah. Imagine
you cutting the line and being like,
imagine being Xbox and highlighting a game like South of Midnight, right? For exactly what that game very clearly is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people come after the community manager for that studio in truly horrific fashion, not being like, hey man, there's kind of a reason we thought this game mattered and put it in, and it should be obvious blatantly from looking at it. It also reminds me of like, not that any of us should have taken this seriously from the beginning, that people meant what they were saying, that any of this was in good faith, but it was very funny to me when the game of the moment turned to Tales of Kenzera Zhao, in terms of like the forced diversity, and it's like, this is a game made by a man of Nigerian descent. Like, he made his own thing. He's doing exactly the thing he wanted. He put together a team and made the game he wanted to make, and you don't like it. It's not forced diversity. You don't want diversity. You don't want to have to see melanin. You don't want to have to see any of that. And that should have dispelled the myth to anybody who is still too foolish to believe these people and take them at their word.
One of our community managers in chat made a really good point. Dio, like, the fucking cruelty is something that I personally have a hard time swallowing. Like, Leanna Ruppert, a friend of the podcast, personal friend of mine, talked about equality. She talked about equality in Bungie, and as a result, people DM'd her fucking shit trying to induce an epileptic seizure.
And succeeded.
And succeeded. And they did. and it's like, you know, I can't. So when your community managers are being attacked in this manner, and you as a developer don't fucking speak up for them, because here's the thing. People can say all they fucking want online. Oh, I'm boycotting Bungie. I'm boycotting Sony. I'm boycotting. No, they're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Like, come the fuck on. Like, no, you're not boycotting. No, you're not fooling anyone. Like, I saw people, you know, talking to Mark Kern, talking about, you know, oh, you know, I called Sony and, you know, told them that, you know, I'm canceling my PlayStation membership because of Stellar Blade. And they were like, oh yeah, we're well aware of this issue. And, you know, we're looking into it. No, they're fucking not. That shit never happened. And so guys, speak up for your fucking community managers. I know community managers right now who are so under fire that they have to, their Twitter accounts are locked, which is antithetical to being a fucking community manager, because their whole job is to get out there and talk with the fucking community. And so, but they don't feel like they can, because they don't have any support.
And I think it's like, I think these companies think like, nobody is asking you to be doing what I'm doing. You know, like, I don't need you to get online every single day and throw spicy shit in everyone's direction. Like, that's my decision. I decided to do that. What anybody, I think, realistically would ask you to do is make one fucking statement.
Yeah.
And then close the book. Don't open it up for discussion. Don't go back and forth with people. Don't say we want to hear this, that, and the other thing, and we want to hold the fucking town hall, and we can all figure out how to get along. You sit down, you write a statement, you send it through the 9 people to the people that I have to deal with in case, God forbid, I break embargo, or God forbid, I ask a weird question at a fucking event. All those people who are worried about your PR, who want to make sure you don't come off too this way, too that way, you fucking send it through that. You make it really fucking clear. We're not cool with you harassing people. Diversity is happening naturally. We don't want you, if you are going to behave like this, figure your own shit out and hit send. It doesn't need to be like a in the trenches every single day. Phil Spencer doesn't have to get in my replies and be like, don't call her a whore. Like, I don't need him to do that.
Nobody's asking Phil to do that.
Nobody is saying that you need
Reggie
to be on the
personally show up and defend me.
I don't need Kojima to like face scan me and be like, never mind, we love her. Like, you just need to make a big blanket fucking statement. And if you guys all come together and you have your big, what I assume is like the V for Vendetta meeting where you're all sitting around in the big screens talking about shit, you sit there and you agree on a fucking statement and you all sign off of it. And then you all go at 11:55 a.m. on May 15th, we're going to send it. And then you leave it alone.
Oh, that's proof of the conspiracy. We just gave away the conspiracy.
There you go.
Gamers are dead.
That's what I mean. Like for these kinds of people, it's like they're just looking for any reasonable thing to be like, well, now we're angry at this and we cancel this and we cancel that. If every single major video game company, which as far as I can tell, aside from like maybe 1 or 2 I've never fucking heard of, have at least a person of color, a woman, a queer person working for them, would turn around and say, we're not cool with this, then all of the video game companies ever would be null and void to them. And then good luck. What's your plan going forward? And also it's been proven that none of this stuff works. Like the Bud Light controversy, nobody stopped. Bud Light didn't lose money.
Right.
Like Kid Rock was drinking Bud Light a month and a half fucking later. Like this doesn't actually happen.
Alyssa, now I've got this mental, like, not to divert, but now I got this mental picture of like the Square CEO on this huge screen with like all the team leads in front of him, and he's like, "Mr. Nomura, where are we with Kingdom Hearts 4?" And he's like, "Well, we need more belts." That's staying with me now.
How are we going to deal with the women who are getting harassed? What do you think?
We need to give any woman.
A little bit annoying.
We need to give any woman in a new Final Fantasy game some personality. What are we gonna do?
But how big are the boobies going to be?
Well,
tell me the booby size.
Yeah. So if I may, John, I'm gonna wrap this around in a direction that I know is gonna get you a little heated. So please let me lay the groundwork. One of the things that has been frustrating me recently, because I'm somebody who obviously really tries to figure out where my line is in terms of like when I'm just feeding the monster versus when it's important for me to speak out, right? And I've seen a lot of people I really like, a lot of people I really respect, a lot of people I am not done respecting just because they said something I disagree with, saying things like, I wish you wouldn't talk about this so much. I wish you wouldn't talk about Mark Kern, or you wouldn't talk about these issues. You know, this one farm game did the silly tweet and people saying like, don't talk about that tweet because all you're going to do is feed the fire. And I understand the impulse to feel like the best option is to plug your ears and go, because oftentimes that's true, right? If some dipshit with 20 followers is saying something stupid, you often don't need to quote tweet him and potentially expose him to a wider audience. But Mark Kern is already big, right? When big names are already on the scene,
attention he's not already getting.
Yeah, but also like. And you know, John, I'm not putting John on the spot. We've done this privately and publicly. I obviously sometimes think it's important that John does what he does, and sometimes think, John, that man doesn't matter. Leave him the fuck alone. But
Deal
like,
with it, motherfucker.
But the reality of it is, I think that that's misguided. And I'm curious what you all think, because I think that while I don't know what I don't think there is a silver bullet. I don't think there's a single way we stop these people. I think the best thing would be what you were talking about, Alyssa, which is these companies getting out and making PR statements. But in lieu of that, you know, there has to be some form of pushback. I'm inclined to believe that it probably takes a bunch of different types of people and personalities taking their own approaches, and that some of it's going to stick, right? Because none of us can claim that we magically know how to fix this.
No, it's a like people have said, gray rock, right? Gray rock. You just become so boring online that no one has anything to say about you. And like, granted, I'm really bad at that, but like, even on days when I was like not poking and being annoying, like they're finding I still write articles, right? Yeah. So I still I'm still putting things on the internet, and like, even if it's something innocuous, like I wrote an Overwatch guide just for fun. I was like, there's nothing else to write right now. I'm in between edits. We keep getting yelled at for guides. What if I just write a joke guide about Moira? Write this guide, and then I started getting fucking messages that were like, oh, I see you did your fucking one of your guides, 50 more to go for the week, for the month, and they're quote tweeting that, or I'm just writing an article and they're reading it out loud on YouTube and they're picking it apart. Like, at a certain point, me ignoring them didn't matter, because they were trying to find old stuff or stuff I was currently writing and bringing that up anyway. Like, if you want to gray rock, you can gray rock. If you're a public figure like I am, it's kind of difficult to do when you're currently actively publishing shit that they can dive into. So I think it's like, it really isn't it is not a one stop shop
and
here.
The problem with gray rock is all that means, if it succeeds for you, is that the horde moves on to a different person who now takes the heat instead of you, which I don't say to guilt people to thinking that they need to stay loud so the heat stays on them. It's not your fault. You do not take ownership of what the mob decides to do. But it is inherently true that gray rock strategies do not decrease the amount of harassment. They simply move to other targets, if it works at all.
Alyssa, so why do you think that we have not seen, and this kind of ties into what you were just saying, why do you think we have not seen this being addressed by, like, in outlets by respected investigative, or like, using investigative journalists? I can't talk tonight. I haven't seen, aside from some pieces that you've written and Ash has written, I haven't seen any other of the major outlets tackle this at all.
I mean, there were some. There was a BBC article there when this first started, like, not when it's gotten as heavy as it has now. And like, Ethan on my team, like, he took a bullet writing the Stellar Blade controversy thing. He was like, I'm going to cover it. Like, we're not going to leave it alone. There is like a fear that like any sort of conversation about this is going to get dogpiled on. And like, full disclosure, when I worked at Games Radar, they wouldn't have let me touch this with a fucking 10-foot pole. Like, they would have been like, don't go anywhere near this. We're an enjoyment site. We're about being happy, and that's what a lot of, I think, we're going to go really fucking far back here into something that's really hard to like sum up quickly. But the biggest problem with games journalism is that it doesn't know what it is. It's journalism mixed with hobbyist culture, mixed with access journalism to such a high level that every single thing you're writing, you're worried you're going to get cut off. Like, no one was telling Ebert and Roper, you can't come see my movie because we're scared of what you're going to say. So like, but with, I mean, literally Kotaku is blacklisted at some major publishers because of articles that we've written that they've gotten pissed about. And there is a fear that, you know, the one wrong thing that you write that's going to piss someone off is going to then cut off another arm that you can't have access to. And maybe that's what people are scared of, or they're scared that like Kern still has pull at Blizzard, which I'm sure he fucking doesn't. But like, it's really like, I've had to personally try and fix dynamics and relationships that were broken long before I was at Kotaku, just because I do have some good PR relationships that Kotaku did not have, you know? And that was one of the things I brought to the table was like, hey, so-and-so doesn't hate me. Like, let's try this. But I think games journalism doesn't, and then you have to talk about a brand new form, a relatively brand new form of journalism when you look at journalism in this way and cultural critique. In terms of like the years of people writing about books and plays and then movies, right?
Yeah.
You have to talk about how relatively new it is in terms of history. Then you have to talk about how the major driving factor for it was the internet, which is now halfway through its life cycle become a place where it's actually influencers and reactionary people who are where people go for their quote unquote news. Yeah. And those become their news sites. So the entire industry is like bisected by this really bizarre mix of access journalism and like hype culture and fanboys masquerading as journalists, masquerading as influencers, all wrapped up into one big fucking thing. And we have this massive identity crisis of like, well, what do we actually do? What are we supposed to do? And that was why I wanted to work at Kotaku, because I feel like out of any of all of these sites, they're the first people to be like, no, what we do is report on this shit. That's what we do. And I think there's not a lot of people who still do that.
Yeah.
And if they are, they might not have the platform
it's not
for it to like really matter.
It's not helped by how many people and how much experience has been driven out of gaming journalism every single year by capital, right? I mean, like how brutal have the last several years especially been in terms of layoffs, consolidations, like who is left to be the institutional knowledge that trains the passionate new people? You know, it's a lot
and
of
that's
yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a lot of my experience with gaming journalism as somebody who's not a journalist, and I say that like out of respect because I know I'm not that. It is a ton of very passionate, often very young people who don't have a ton of experience, who are doing their goddamn best despite so little leadership, not because they were abandoned, but because the experience and leadership was pushed out of the industry. And that's brutal.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, that's what I mean. There's no one. I mean, like Fernandez hired me at Kotaku, and she knew Kotaku inside and fucking out. She knew what was and what wasn't a Kotaku story, how we should angle things, what we should focus on, and she got driven out. Like she got driven out for a higher bottom line, for more money, for more this, for more that. Like whatever the story is, because it's conflicting over whether or not she quit or was fired. I can't fucking say. I won't talk about it. But like, she's not there anymore. And now in her gap, they hired Jen. Jen felt like she had an insurmountable feat put in front of her and wouldn't do it more. And now, you know, we're like, what do we do? Like, who's the most senior person who's shaped this site, right? Like, who's there? It's me and it's Carolyn trying to keep this as honest as we can while keeping the lights on. And that's like such a hard thing to be doing when you want to be reporting about such important stuff. There are stories that I was working on and I still want to work on that I've had to put to the side because do I actually have the time to go into a deep dive on Melanie Mack? Not right now.
Yeah.
like I want to because the story of the fucking grifter is huge for me. And that's something that I think is really important to talk about. But when am I going to do that? Like, when do you have the time to do that? And I think it's just, we're in a fucking weird spot where like, we don't know what's going to happen to games journalism in the next 2-3 years. So are the people who are worried about their site really going to go poke however many fucking people are in Sweet Baby Ink detected and piss them off? Like, you'd be scared to do that if you were worried about your views. Like, it's fucked.
I do also think, if I may say one more thing, John.
No, please, no.
It's not helped that I think like, especially because of how so much of the networking that people in games media, whether journalists or just influencer types, etc., like we meet, we cohabitate like through a very volatile social media platform as one of our main ways of connecting. And it can cause even the best of us to go at each other's throats over shit that we don't need to be chiming in on, right? Like, I'm not going to pretend that there haven't occasionally been things that Kotaku's published where I've been like, I really feel strongly that I disagree with that. But like, it's also fine for me to disagree with something and it not be something that I need to be part of like a discourse about, right? And I think our need to discourse about each other and about people and outlets that we should know better than to treat each other this way, especially publicly. You know, it's so funny because in so many ways we're very good at disagreeing with each other sometimes about certain issues. We are not a monolith, those of us in any form of media, but we get too drawn into like the snippy pot shots at each other, at people who then we're expected to turn around and be cool and pretend that we weren't doing this to each other. And like, that's not good for the atmosphere either, both in terms of attracting new people into it and also in terms of like allowing a little bit of dignity for a writer or an outlet to say something silly or stupid or just that you disagree with, because eventually it's going to be your turn under the magnifying glass. And you think people would hope that that same grace would be given to them.
Yeah.
So how does this, so we've got about 6 minutes left, and
Good, I have to pee.
I've been thinking for the past 10 minutes about how this resolves itself. Right? Like about how this ends, because the first time this happened 10 years ago, eventually it ended. I think the problem here, ended in quotations,
right.
Like on a macro scale,
it cooled off tremendously, and there was a period of relative peace. Even if the attitudes never fully went away. Right.
Yeah. Like things, maybe things cooled down is a better way to put it. But I think the difference between then and now is last time this was being primarily driven by guys like Milo Yiannopoulos, who had no real investment in games, right? Guys like Steve Bannon, right? Like fucking Breitbart, right? Like these guys don't give a shit about video games. They just wanted a culture war.
So I was scared when Matt Walsh chimed in. I was like, oh fuck.
Right. But so this time it's being primarily driven by a guy who is heavily invested in games, who wants attention, who has no political aspirations.
Will never work in this fucking industry ever again.
So really, what the fuck does he have to lose? So like, I guess my question is, at what point does this shit end? I mean, I know that we're only like what, a couple months into this, but it already feels like 2 fucking years.
Oh my God, I know.
Watching what some of my friends are going through, and like I can't even begin to comprehend what it must be like to actually experience it. But Alyssa, like, where is this going? Like what's the resolution here? Like, how does this stop?
Part of me has this like sick feeling that I should just like have some sort of toe-to-toe fucking debate. You know what I mean? Because like, if I actually had one-to-one conversations in public with someone like Asmongold or Grums, like I truly don't believe that they would be able to hold a candle to anything that I had to say or do within 10 minutes. I think they would crumble. I don't want to go anywhere near being in the same space as them, let alone being like on, I don't know, like they've all been like, you're more than welcome to come onto my show. And I'm like, okay, like
I mean,
sure,
I think if you get close enough to
debate.
Asmongold to smell him, you might pass out. So
I would rather individually rip out my eyelash hairs than be anywhere near that man. But I don't know, like, I mean, I'm hoping when I go to SGF that I'll be able to talk to people in person that might be a little bit, camera/gun shy, to be sending me messages about stuff or be saying things online and be getting like a much better temperature check from the people who are higher up in the industry and what they think like is actually happening. I I would hope that a big letter would come at some point that might like put the kibosh on shit. Cause like my mind spins out, right? Like, you know, like I'm like, okay, so it's May. And the next month is June. And then that's Pride Month. What the fuck are these cunts going to do during that? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
how
God.
annoying are they going to be if one
that.
person, you know what I mean? Like if one fucking Bungie adds pride flags again or some dumb shit and they're going to fuck all have conniptions. Like, you know, I really just like, I wanted to lose steam, but like when they're doing what Trump did and what Bannon did of like finding something new to be angry about every week, there's a million fucking games. There's a million fucking people who play these games. Like you're going to find something to be pissed about no matter where you're looking. And it's like, I'm hoping that they'll lose steam. I was hoping that this fucking bullshit with his game that he's trying to get funded will eventually, like, we'll see whatever's actually going on there, and maybe he'll be unmasked as the fucking Wizard of Oz that we all know him to be. Like, I don't want to do the labor of individually convincing some of these people, like I did earlier today, that like I'm a human being that actually like cares about people, and just because I'm like a twatty bitch on Twitter doesn't mean that I'm not. But I don't know, like. The last time we didn't say loudly that we didn't like them or want them here, and they stayed around and they came back again, and they thought it was like, well, everyone's cool with this because no one's told us not to. So I think I can only hope that I can keep going on into situations like this and talking to you guys and going more and more and more places of just telling the story of what's happening, that like it becomes more clear that these people are not welcome and that they're a vocal minority. But I don't know how else, unless it's like a multi-pronged approach, we can stop this from just continuing on and on and on, because there's always going to be something they're pissed about. Like Star Wars Day coming up, I don't want to hear anybody talk about fucking Star Wars because they're horrible about that too. So it's like, it's just always something, and it's like, I just wanted to stop. I really do. Because it's a house of cards. There's like nothing. There's nothing there. There's really nothing there. Like he's still quoting fucking Starship Troopers as if he doesn't know that that's like the most anti-him fucking thing in the world. Like these people have no concept of what they're even talking about. They have no media literacy. They have no understanding of the things that they're consuming. And it's like, I don't know how you reason with that. How do you reason with that? Do I go crazy or do I go, hey, Arnold, when he's like, don't hit me, I'll hit me? Like, what do I do? Like, I'm going crazy.
The funniest possible thing, and I think like the way this ends ultimately is that like a combination of things just completely destroy like Kern's credibility and the credibility of people who sign on to his campaigns. And like the video messages attached to the Free Stellar Blade thing were perfect. Like
Shouldn't that be enough?
It is for so many people, right? I've seen so many people who saw those and went, you know, I was angry at these people, but I'm really just sad now. And I think there's nothing more devastating than the people you're trying to harass going, I'm really just kind of sad for like how little you got going on, clearly how socially maladjusted you are, how poorly you take care of yourself, right? You know, that you're just like,
I would love for them to know they're being manipulated. Like you're being manipulated. You are malleable, you're naive, you might have some social tendencies that aren't, you know, great. And there is a man who could be your dad who is manipulating you. Like that's the simplest way to put it. And that's what all of these grifters do. They manipulate you to get angry, to give them money, to give them likes, to give them views, so they get sponsorships, and they'll ride your coattails and ride on your backs all the way through to mediocrity where they make a little bit more money.
And you know what? Alyssa, that's a fucking fantastic point. And that is, you know, this will, I'll sum up my thoughts on you know, for the night here, on that. And they're twofold. One, and I'm talking to people who are supporting Mark Kern right now. And I know some of you are in chat. We've been banning you all night. But it's not too late to fucking cut this out. Living like this has to be fucking miserable. It's got to be fucking miserable having that much hate in your heart. And I can't fathom it. And you know, I used to be much different than I am now. I used to be a much different person. And you know, I changed my mindset. I got myself right, and I can honestly say that I'm happier now than I ever have been in my life. And some of you people, it's just baked into you, and I get some of you people are just pieces of shit, and that's not going to fucking change. But I think some of you are just fucking friendless and lonely. And it's not too fucking late to change, man. You know, like it's never too late to change. And if you don't want to change, then I guess go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But you know, the other thing I'll say is you know, I need, and now I'm talking to other straight white dudes like myself who support the cause. You know, it doesn't matter if you've got 13,000 followers or 1.2 million followers. It doesn't matter if you're a Greg Miller or a fucking Jeff Keighley or just some, you know, mid-tier, you know, low-level podcaster with a small audience. It's incumbent upon us to fucking speak up and say something. Because I'll tell you right now, even if you don't change one heart, even if you don't change one mind, I guarantee you, based on the messages I've received, people appreciate it. People find comfort in knowing that they're supported, knowing that they're loved, knowing that they are appreciated and cared for. And you know, that right there is a light in the fucking darkness for a lot of people. Just knowing that you have somebody looking out for you, even if it's just one person, it can change an entire person's fucking world or a person's entire world. So, you know, if you see somebody who doesn't have the privileges baked into their lives that you do, and I'm talking about, you know, like, you know, anybody who's not you, like, you know, women, you know, people of color, you know, members of the LGBTQ community, disabled people, anybody who is marginalized. You know, like if you're not and if you're a straight white guy, everybody who's not like you is marginalized. You know, so you know, if you see somebody being stepped on or being abused, like, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do them a favor, fucking say something, speak up. You know, you never know whose day you're gonna change when you do that. So
More importantly than
I
doing that shit on Twitter, do that shit in real life.
Do it in real life.
Because
like,
way too many
yeah.
people are brave, like talking a little shit on Twitter, but then will not say something when a coworker makes like a shitty comment about black people. And like that's it's actually more important for you to be doing the work in person, like at work and with your families and in your friend groups, than it is for you to say shit on Twitter. Frankly, you can be silent on Twitter, as long as you're putting the work in real life, because that's where you're making the most impact and change. Also, please don't be silent on Twitter. I'm just saying for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, it matters.
I'll leave you guys with this. I'm not going to say when this happened or where this happened for a lot of reasons. I was at a hockey game and I was leaving and a man was screaming homophobic slurs. Very angry. His team had lost. And he was calling the game an F slur and the players an F slur.
That's not even grammatically correct to call the game an F slur.
And the fans an F slur. It was just so crazy. They were like, what an F slur way to win. And I'm like, I don't even understand. And he was screaming. And that, mind you, hockey games are not bastions of fucking, you know, open-mindedness. But it's a place that I have spent a lot of my time. And I told him, dude, chill with the hate. And he said, well, what are you, LGBT? And got my face. And then I am 5'2", got back in his face. And then he got back in my face. And then I got back in his face. And the next thing I know, we're getting physically split up by security guards. And my friends were dragging me away, like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, I don't want to fucking hear that. I don't want to hear that here. Like, I don't care. If it's a hockey game, you shouldn't feel comfortable screaming that in public, ever. And if I'm the only person that's going to say something to you and you could whoop my ass because you're a foot taller than me, I'm still going to fucking say it. And neither one of my friends who have now known me for like 6 years knew that they know I have a tendency to be spicy, but they had never seen me in that scenario. And they were both like freaked out because I like almost fought an adult man. And I was so riled up for the next like 25 minutes that I couldn't come down. I was like, I was pissed. I was so fucking pissed. And the next day I was like, that was fucking crazy, but I'd do it again. I'd do it again, and I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it the next day, and I'll do it online. I'll do it at fucking SGF, and I'll do it at fucking, if E3 ever comes back, and I'll do it at GC, and I'll do it everywhere. So just fucking something. If you don't feel comfortable saying something, call me up and I'll fucking say something, because maybe you don't want to put yourself out there. But if you're a guy and you're fucking white passing and you're straight, say something, because I don't need to be getting my ass beat by a 6 foot tall man. Like, I would prefer to not do that, maybe potentially, but I'm still doing it. And if my stupid short ass can fucking altercation with a man for screaming slurs, you can tell one person on Twitter to shut the fuck up. So put your ass out there, because I almost got my fucking glasses broken in half by some scumbag from Long Island over a hockey game. And by the way, we won.
I'm loving the accent coming out stronger and stronger as you get more heated. Hell yeah.
It happens to me whenever I get pissed. The Midwestern Chicago accent starts coming out more and more.
It's just, if I could, like, yeah, we don't all have to be fighters and pit bulls. You know, if you have privilege, say something, because at the end of the day, if I put my ass out there, you can put your ass out there. And if you want to fucking reach out and ask for advice on how to speak about things and talk about things, you can reach out to me. I'm not going to give you fighting advice, because I would never condone that.
I would.
That's not nice.
I mean,
we'll talk about this off street and what more details of what happened that day, because it's pretty good.
I just got to be me. First, before we sign off here, I want to thank, first of all of our mods in chat for being so on the ball,
as well as everybody I like emergency deputized without even asking them, was just like, hey, take some mod powers.
So, like,
thank you guys for being the proverbial person yelling at the man at the hockey games.
Yeah, we've never banned so many people in chat in one night before. So this was
I set a record.
Tanya can keep the sword. Tanya can keep the sword.
Tanya, you can have it.
And also, Alyssa, thank you very much. Not just for being on here with us tonight, but for being one of the pit bulls. Well, not only that, but I personally am very. I am very motivated by the way that you've handled this. I find it very inspiring, and I wish I had that kind of courage. So I greatly admire how you have kind of rolled with the punches on this. And I not only do I deeply appreciate your presence here tonight and your words, but I also deeply appreciate you. So thank you.
I appreciate you fucking both, and I ain't going anywhere. So. Yeah. Tell them to throw what they got at me, because I could bench press half these fucking pussies and their mothers. So let's fucking go, bitch. Anyway, everyone be nice to each other, unless they're twats. Don't be nice to them then.
I would say suck my dick from the back, but it's more action than these fuckers are ever gonna get anyway. So
hey yo.
And with that, we will go ahead and sign off here. We'll be back next week, as always, with a hopefully more fun topic this time.
Something lighter, something more fun.
Yeah. Alyssa, you are always welcome on to talk about bullshit.
And hopefully more fun stuff next time, instead of just like
the
horrible existential pressure crushing us all.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you to everyone in chat. And guys, until next time, remember, you've been misled.
Kindness costs nothing, but ass beatings are free, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.